Welcome to this week's edition of Now You Know Sports. I'm Brian Page.
And I'm Peter Jensen.
And we're going to get right into it. Big surprise early exit by the Boston College men's basketball team in the big dance. And they lost to USC in the first round. Somewhat unexpected for Eagles fans, but for some reason, a lot of people saw this coming. And so now we look at the season and recap. Peter, what are your thoughts on a season that just ended?
Well, I mean, concerning just the NCAA tournament, I, along with many other Eagles fans, was a little surprised by our number 7 seed. I thought it might have been a little too high. Thought we played well against USC, but not well enough to pull it out in the end. It's a sad exit for Tyrese Rice, who's done a lot for this Eagles team. He provided great senior leadership all year. It's sad that he needs to go out like this with a kind of a lackluster performance. But for Eagles fans, we have to remember this is a team that was picked to finish 11th in their conference this year and not even make the NIT. With a young team, we have, this is a team filled with sophomores. Rakim Sanders is going to be, I believe, an absolute beast in his last 2 years. So, I mean, going forward, I know we don't have any recruits coming in next year. What are your expectations for the team next year?
I think there's a lot to there's a lot of good things to see in the future with this BC team. I understand, Tyrese Rice is a great player for this program for the past 4 years, and he will be greatly missed. But you look at our starting lineup, everyone's a sophomore aside from him. And you look at Rakim Sanders, you look at Reggie Jackson, who's a great young player who came off the bench for us. I think he could fill that role next year easily. And, for the next 2 years, I really see the BC team improving next year. Obviously, there weren't high expectations this year, but I see us next year as, we've kind of proven ourselves, and moving forward, we got a lot of good young players. So, yeah, I think we'll be great.
I think the sky's the limit for next year, honestly.
Yeah.
The ACC is always going to be strong, but I think, if this team finds a good leader, I think we can do fantastic things in the ACC.
Mm-hmm.
And now, moving on from that to a topic that we don't usually discuss in Now You Know Sports, but we figured, even with our limited knowledge of it, we're going to do a little NHL coverage, especially with the playoffs coming up. I'm going to go cover the East, but first, Brian, with your limited knowledge of the Western Conference, who do you see coming out of it?
Well, to be honest with you, I recently checked the standings for the first time in a few years, actually, and I found the San Jose Sharks are atop with over 100 points. Now, I don't really know how this all works, but I know that if you have more points, you got success. So I think the Sharks are the team to beat. They're the only team above 100 points right now, and I'm also saying that because I don't really know anything else about the NHL right now. What about you, Peter?
Well, in the Eastern Conference, it boils down to 2 teams. The beloved Boston Bruins, who have gone through a huge resurgence this year, led by Marc Savard, their center, has had over 55 assists this season with 20-plus goals. And the key for them come the postseason, who will really decide, how far this team goes, will be Tim Thomas, arguably the best goalie in the NHL with a goals against average, I believe, under 2.1. But the other team coming out of the East you have to look for is the Washington Capitals, led by the greatest player in the NHL right now, Alexander Ovechkin, having a monster year, over 50 goals and over 40 assists. And he's fed by Nicholas Backstrom, who's their center, who, because of Ovechkin's prolific goal scoring, has over 55 assists this year. I think they're the team to beat in the entire NHL, honestly, with all apologies to the Sharks. But their big concern will be in net. Their goalie, Jose Theodore, has a goals against average nearing 3, which I'm told is awful in the NHL. But if they can overcome that, if he can get hot during the playoffs, this team is the team to beat.
Yes, that sounds great to me. And moving on, something that I know a little bit more about is Major League Baseball. So we have spring training coming to a close. The grass is growing, the snow is melting, all of that good stuff. And we're going to talk a little baseball preview now. And I know you're going to start out with the American League, and then I'll come to the National League. So, American League, go.
I'll start off with what is going to be the toughest division in the American League by far, and obviously the toughest to predict, the AL East. 3 really strong teams with last year's AL champion, the Devil Rays, obviously the Boston Red Sox, and the New York Yankees, who threw around all sorts of money this offseason. For an AL East winner, I'm going to go with the Red Sox. I am not very sure about this, but their 1-2-3 of pitching of Beckett, Matsuzaka, and Lester is hard to beat. You won't find a better 1-2-3 in the MLB. The AL Central it'll again come down to the Twins and the White Sox. I see the Twins taking it. The return of Francisco Liriano, great young pitcher, missed all of last year, and Joe Nathan coming out of the bullpen is absolutely fantastic. The West, it's the LA Angels division to lose, and as the wild card, it's between the Yankees and the Devil Rays. I'm going to say the New York Yankees only because I believe Hal Steinbrenner will not let this team lose.
Yeah.
They're going to pull some sort of deal, and you got to believe that, for his legacy as an owner, coming into a brand new stadium to miss the postseason in the first season would be absolutely disastrous. I do not think he's letting that happen.
And I can agree with you on that. I think the Yankees are going to make it to the postseason one way or the other. When you're looking at the National League, though, you look at the East. I'm going to say the Mets. I think this year they're going to pull it out, especially with their revamped bullpen. Going to the Central, I think the Reds are a sleeper team in this division. They got a lot of good young talent, a lot of good young pitchers in Edison Volquez and Johnny Cueto, and they got a lot of good young hitters in Jay Bruce, Joey Votto, Willie Taveras, all these great guys. I think they could really pull it out in that division that nobody really knows who's going to win. In the West, I think it's the Dodgers' division to lose. I think last year, re-signing Manny Ramirez, their pitching isn't as good, but I think they might pull a deal. Maybe Pedro Martinez can come into the fold. If that happens, I think they're the team to beat. I see the Diamondbacks or the Giants maybe trailing, but I just don't think they have all the pieces that the Dodgers do right now to hold on to that pretty weak division. But I see that. And my wild card, I'm going to say the Phillies. Phillies or the Mets trade-off right there in the East. So I think that'll be it for this week's edition of Now You Know Sports.
I'm Peter Jensen. Thanks for stopping by, guys.
And I'm Brian Page. We'll take it back to the desk.